we talked about the Calgary side of things, right? Talked about Ottawa. Let's talk about Florida. Florida is an interesting team.
Yeah.
Now, they're over the cap. Now, for the first time, I think, in their history, they're like over the cap. Funny enough, they're 3.3.
So
yeah, 3.3 over the cap. I mean, I kind of like some of the moves that Florida did. I do think they overpaid for Tkachuk, though.
Yeah.
They gave up a lot. They gave up a lot. Now, do they get the best player at a young age? Yes.
Yeah.
But they gave up a lot.
They gave up 100 and something points. Huberdeau, who, let's face it, I mean, the guy was just an animal this past season. I mean, listen, their biggest thing was they're doing what Toronto isn't. And what I mean by that is they had a good team, won the President's Trophy. They were the #1 team in the regular season, right? But we all know when you want to be competitive and you want to be a real team, not Toronto, right? This is what you do. You say, all right, cool. We're going to make some moves and we're going to jump over that hump. We're not going to keep the same guys and do the same thing because, you know, if you keep doing the same thing expecting it to change, let's be honest, you're crazy, Toronto. These guys said, all right, we got to change it up. Yeah, we have a great team. Can be the #1 team in the NHL all season. But the way they constructed, we're not going to get over that hump. We're not going to beat Tampa Bay, right? Who technically is a team to beat in the East. We're not going to beat them, and we need to change something up. They didn't wait 5, 10, a lifetime, or your whole Toronto career, whatever, right? They actually went out and said, okay, cool. Superstar, maybe this guy will get us over the hump. And I'm pretty sure if it doesn't happen again this next season, not saying that they're going to trade him, but they wouldn't be afraid to if they're getting something of equal value, maybe just a different player.
Absolutely. So, let's get into the player that they lost here, and then we'll compare him to Tkachuk.
100%.
Jonathan Huberdeau, 29 years old, plenty of years left in his prime, had a phenomenal season last year. Some people say that's because he played with Barkov, but I'm sorry. Like, at some point, you have to credit this man with his playmaking ability. He had in 8 games played, 30 goals with 85 assists for 115 points and a plus 35. Right, phenomenal numbers. Huberdeau, let's not get it twisted. This isn't a guy that just mysteriously had a good year. Like last year, COVID shortened season, 61 points in 55 games. Season before that in Florida, we got dinged up a little bit. 69 games played, 78 points. The year before that, 82 games played, 92 points. Like, he has shown he is capable of these high-producing seasons. This was a career year. But let's not fake and pretend like it's a friggin' outlier. This guy can produce. I mean, at the very least, if he plays a full season, he'll be around 80 points. So I did see some of that chatter, and I think that was a little ridiculous. And I think Calgary, I admire what they did here because they improved their back end with adding Weegar as well. And I think they won this trade because I think they got a very good player back he's not a Tkachuk type, but he's more of a Johnny Gaudreau with Huberdeau.
I say he's a polished player.
Yeah.
The reason he got to this point total is because he figured his game out, right? Whereas some of the other guys we're talking about, Johnny Gaudreau, he's just coming into his own as far as figuring out that whole aspect, which is why he just came off his best season, right? He just figured out, okay, this is me. Like, he knew what he had, and he had to test the waters here and there. You know, obviously he still made an impact regardless, but he's figuring it out. This guy has it figured out now. He's been consistent for the past 4 seasons. This past season, I think he finally got it all together and said, boom, got it. Whereas Matthew Tkachuk, you look at him, right? What is his stats are for the past couple of seasons?
So career year, obviously, 104 points. So, it's not like there's a big point differential going the other direction. Like, they actually lost a couple points here. That being said, last year, 82 games played, 42 goals, 62 assists, 104 points. Phenomenal season. Year before that, 56 games played, 16 goals, 27 assists, 43 points. Year before that, 69 games played, 23 goals, 38 assists, 61 points. Year before that, 80 games played, 34 goals, 43 assists for 77. Like, if you look at all his season, he's been productive. Like, he's been productive, and he's been a very good player. And he's a lot younger than Huberdeau. So he is only 24 years old. So he is entering the... Yeah, he's entering the prime of his career.
Yep.
The one thing for me is this a guy you give up that much if you believe you are truly contending as Florida? You know what I mean? Like, I think you're better as a contender if you kept your pieces. Like, I think Calgary got far better as a team overall with this trade. I think Florida got better in the aspect they got a younger talent. You know what I mean? I think they did lose some like tangible assets. Like going back into this cap, like you have Barkov, and Barkov is phenomenal. You got Tkachuk. You got Sam Reinhart, who was starting to come into his own. You got Hornquist, who, you know, he is what he is at this age. Sam Bennett, you know, solid player. You got Duclair. You got Vahardy. Like, you got some nice players here. But the problem is I don't know if there's enough depth scoring. Because outside of Tkachuk and Barkov, like Reinhardt's a solid player. Hornquist is okay at this point. Bennett, like, he's okay. I mean, I've never been the biggest Bennett fan, so I don't know if I trust him to produce on a yearly basis. Their defense with Ekblad and Montour and Forsling and Gudis, and like it's solid. Mark Stahl, even with the older veteran here, it's solid. Yeah. And then goaltending, I don't like Bobrovsky. I just don't like Bobrovsky. I just don't. I don't think. I
think Knight will be coming for that spot probably mid-season. I think that there will be a changing of the guards in between those two this season. In my honest opinion, Knight has played well. Well, he's showing development. He's showing that he can play, and I think given the opportunity, he may take the spot.
Spencer Knight, and this is weird, right? Because goalies take longer to develop. So, like, for example, when Jeremy Swayman got called up by the Bruins, I was a little apprehensive at first because I was like, I don't want to ruin him. Because, like, goaltending, I feel like there's been plenty great possible goaltenders that have been ruined because they got called up too early. And you shatter their confidence because goalie is a lot of it's mental. You know what I mean? It's a big mental game. Like, if you can't trust yourself, you're screwed. Spencer Knight being 21 years old, 6'3", 190. Oh my God, he looks like a kid. Like this past season, he had 32 games played, 27 games started, 19 wins, 9 losses, 3 overtime losses for a 908 save percentage and 2.79 goals against. He played in some spot time last year, 3 games started, 4 games played, 919 save percentage, 2.32 goals against. I mean, if I'm in an ideal situation, I think he has the potential, obviously, to be a number one. Spencer Knight's been one of the more like touted prospects. I mean, I think they went with Spencer Knight over Devin Levi, that's currently playing for Northeastern, who won the Mike Richter Award of the best goaltender in the NCAA, and he's actually going. Mike Richter. And Mike Richter's a stud. We're going to do a career video on him at some point. And they traded him to Buffalo. And he's going back to Northeastern. I'm excited because I'm going to get season tickets to Northeastern. And for me, it's pretty exciting because it'll be fun to watch. With Buffalo, I actually think they're very promising for a lot of different reasons. But Devin Levi is finally starting to hit that sweet spot. He's developing nice. But they traded Levi out to Buffalo. I think what would have been smarter is if you kept both of them. Because goaltender is such a hard position to judge.
It is.
Because like, you can have certain prospects that look super good in the minor levels, like the minor leagues, and then they get called up and it's too big for them. The moment's too big. And that's why I get worried about getting called up a goalie. Now with Swayman, it worked out well. He had a fantastic season. But like with Spencer Knight, he had a solid year considering. But like 21 being up in the NHL is extremely young. We've seen that go in the polar opposite. Like a guy like Carter Hart, who broke records in the QMJHL, I feel like his confidence is at an all-time low because you call him up to a terrible situation. Now, mind you,
Right.
Florida's a way better team, way better surrounding. He's getting wins. He's developing. But it's just, I do feel a little bit for Spencer Knight in this regard. If he doesn't perform well, like they're kind of screwed because like Bravotsky, let's just go into his statistic. Like everyone wants to hate on Tortorella, but it's due to Tortorella this man got paid. Like this guy is not he is not a $10 million goaltender, like in any way, shape, or form. Like he is like if I was Florida, I would have tried to dump him. But let's go into his stats. He's 33 years old, which isn't that old for goaltenders considering. This past season, 54 games played, 53 started, 39 wins, 7 losses, 3 overtime losses, 913 save percentage of 2.67. The problem I have with Bobrovsky is since his last season in Columbus, in the last 3 with Florida, it's like kind of meh, right? Like last season, the season before last season is like 30 games started, 19 wins, 8 losses, 2 overtime losses, 906. First season in Florida, 49 games started, 23 wins, 19 losses, a 900. Last season in Columbus, 61 games started, 37 wins, 24 losses, 1 overtime, like a 913 with a 2.58. Like Bravotsky, I think, was super overrated. Super overrated. There is no way this man should be a $10 million goaltender. And the problem is that, like, the Florida Panthers, they're not in the situation to do this now because of the way they've kind of dealt with their cap. They would need to eat cap. They would need to eat cap to move him.
Yeah,
they would. And in going to this team, I mean, unless you're going to trade and get rid of a guy like Hornquist, who's 35 and he's at $5 million, I mean, Bravotsky, how much longer has he got on that deal? He's got, my God.
He's got like 4 more years, 4 more years left.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Why?
So hold on. So let's go back to the original portion of this, of how we got into this team, right? Was this a good trade, right?
Yep.
The Tkachuk for oh my God, it slipped my mind.
No, it was Tkachuk got traded for essentially Huberdeau and Weegar and some other picks. Apologize, we got a little on a tangent. I'll probably have to like chop that up a bit. But I think I think it's good. It's good in this aspect. You got younger.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Well, that's what I want to get at, right? So, what they did by moving Huberdeau, who was 29, I believe, they moved Huberdeau. They elongated the transition of what they're trying to do. Yeah, they're building a good team. Yeah, they just lost a guy who scored 115 points for a guy who just scored 104. Let's not play ourselves right here. That's amazing either way, right?
Yeah.
Not every team has a 100-point guy, right? So 100-point guy for another 100-point guy, right? This one's younger and still developing. With a bunch of younger players that you have on the roster that are still developing, I don't think. Let me see. They only have 1 player over 30. 1.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody else, they're all in the same age range. I want you to understand that how that helps that team, right? You have the one guy who's going to be the leader, who's going to be the sound mind thought that tells the younger guys, hey, this is how it should be, whatnot. Show that leadership, right? You hope. Then all the other guys are going to be able to do one thing that probably Huberdeau couldn't do with them, and it's to relate. Now you have chemistry off the ice that should hopefully, right? And I'm assuming here that this is part of their thought process. He's young, right? He might be able to help the other players who are young and still somewhat developing and still around that same age. Right, he may be that guy, that leader, not only while he's finding his game, help the other guys find their game because they're all around the same age. They all have that same mentality. They all come from the same time frame, right? So there's a lot more to work with as a whole unit, whereas Huberdeau at 29, right, you look at all these ages, he's a few years removed from the whole core of 26, 24, 25-year-olds. And he's a little too young, not necessarily crazy young, but a little bit too young for the 35-year-old. So he's kind of like, he was always kind of like in that middle where he just, with those forwards, that he was like in between. So yeah, it worked last season. It's been working for a couple of seasons. It's been building. You had a great season. But hey, this isn't a bad move. This is one of those moves that, again, I think it's going to create more chemistry in the long run, and it's going to allow you to have a longer run because of his age.
Well, I would actually have to agree with that because the average age, mind you, with Hornquist bumping it up a bit, is 26 years old. I'm not a big Sam Bennett fan. I think Reinhart can be okay. I think both of them are a little bit overpaid, in my opinion. But, I mean, you have a very good youth here. Their oldest part of their team is their defenseman. Ekblad is a good defenseman. Montour's pretty solid. Forsling, Gudis. I mean, like, you have a competent defenders here. But
you only have two guys over 30. Only two guys over 30 on the defensive core. So, again, they're all... And you look at the defense core, right? What are they? 26, 25, 22? They're all around that same age range. Again, people don't understand that playing with guys that are around your same age means you not necessarily have the same mentality, but you can relate to them a lot better. Than, you understand? I think that as a whole, this may help them create that off-ice chemistry. Because like you look at Tampa Bay, right? Who they're chasing technically, right? All their guys, pretty much the same age, right? They just have a few young guys in there. Hold on, let me take a look.
But to kind of, I'll say wrap this up. I do think Calgary won that trade. I think Florida. Yes. I think in the future, this might be better depending on how those draft picks pan out, though, too. Because we could be looking at this like I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if Calgary drafts a Hall of Fame type player or even a super like an all-star type player. I mean, it definitely is a win for them. But like I think with Tkachuk getting younger, getting him to a longer deal at like 24 years old, I think personally that Florida is a goaltender away from competing.
Yeah,
I do.
I agree. 100%.
And if Spencer Knight plays well, it takes that spot. I mean, I don't know how Florida's going to deal with that cap space, but we'll see. Because they also need to dump somebody. That's the thing. They need to get rid of someone. That's a few million cap space. So what do you get rid of? Do you get rid of Duclair or Carter Verhaeghe? Like, it's just... if I was them, if they're going to go with the youth movement, get rid of Hornquist. Like, move him. Like,
well, again, I think he provides that age-old knowledge or whatnot. But, yeah, I wouldn't doubt him being moved. Again, right, they are... Even with this move, I still think that they're going to... they may not win the President's Trophy, but they're definitely a playoff-bound team.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes, again, you look at a team like the Rangers, right? What was their most successful line throughout the playoffs? It wasn't their superstars, as crazy as it sounds. It was their kid line.
Yeah.
And they're all around the same age. They were able to bond and grow stronger as a unit. And none of them are superstars yet. None of them are that by far, right? But their mentality, their chemistry, because of their ages, right? It translated to the ice, and they were able to grow. Even in a post-interview, they said, we wish we would have had this lineup all season to really watch them grow because we feel like it's going to be a line to be reckoned with. And that wasn't just that, like, they really didn't like talking about it like that, but coaches spoke of it like that, players spoke of it like that. Now look at Florida, where you have a whole team like that. That's dangerous.